Okay, now we're going to start. So we just did Tuesday all the way up until Tuesday night. Because today's Thursday. Yes, okay. So Wednesday morning, the 11th, because today is Thursday the 12th. Wednesday morning, the 11th, I wake up spontaneously at 4:57 in the morning. I have no idea why, because the lights and the fan and the TV had been going all night long. Anyways, I woke up and I was like, oh geez, it is 5 o'clock in the morning. But I remember the guy saying there are buses that leave at 4, 5, and 6. But I was like, why am I awake at 4? I'm really tired. I'll just go back to bed. I'll wake up later. So I scoured around. Oh, and I needed to charge things too. None of my batteries for my phone or my iPod or my camera, any of that stuff was charged. I was like, oh freak. So scurried around and I'm half dazed, asleep state. Plug in all the stuff, find all the light switches, turn them off, set my alarm for 9 because lady on the bus with me from Ambanza to Ambilu Bay, where I was then sleeping, told me that her bus left at 9 in the morning. I was like, okay, I can do that. Turn off all the lights, go back to bed, wake up at 9, go take a shower, pack up all my stuff, pack it all up and leave it there in the hotel room. And I walk in the direction of where they told me the bus stop would be. So I walk over to the bus stop and I find a couple people are like, hey, where are you going? Oh, he's in French. Vous allez, la la la. I was like, oh, shut up, I'm going to Sambaba. And they're like, oh, you speak Madagascar? I was like, yes. Where? Whatever. I wasn't as upset at this point as I am right now. Anyway, so I was like, yes, I'm going to Sambaba. And they're like, oh, we have a bus that's leaving at 11. It was so it was 9 o'clock in the morning, 2 hours. I was like, oh, sweet. And some other was like, so do we. And I was like, oh, really? Everyone's leaving at 11. How convenient. And the one guy's like, well, we have a big giant bus with big tires, big four-wheel drive off-roading bus thing that you've seen me in. The other one was, I was like, so what kind of car do you have? He's like, a minibus. And I was like, oh, minibus. Sometimes that means one of the fancy air-conditioned nice seats bus. And I was like, okay, let me go see what it looks like. No. It was just it was a Mazda sans 19 truck to the Silver Bullet Soixante taxi bay in Madagascar, for all those who know what I'm talking about. Tiny little Mazda thing. Anyway, so I was like, well, do you have devant season? Do you have front passenger seat? And he's like, no, ours is full. I was like, hey, Mr. Four-wheel drive big off-road bus thing, do you have devant season? He was like, yeah, we do. I was like, okay. And he's like, yeah, and normally we leave at 2, but we have 12 people that we're picking up in some random town, so we're gonna leave a lot earlier because we don't have to fill as many seats, so we're gonna leave at 11. You're gonna leave in an hour and a half. It's 9:30 something. He's like, yeah, we'll be leaving the car will get here at 11. We'll come pick you up at your hotel. I was like, okay, that sounds sweet. It's like, how much? And he's like, 50. I was like, no, 50,000 which is $25. I was like, how about? Or then I talked to him about something else. Then he wrote down. He's like, yeah, we'll give it to you for 45,000. It's $22.50. So I was like. So I didn't answer him. Then he starts writing out the ticket, and he wrote out 45,000. I was like, hey, give me 40. He's like, okay, fine. So he gave it to me for $20. I was like, okay, not too bad. So I paid him $5. Supposed to pay him the $15 later when I actually get in the car. So I go back to my hotel and chill and uploaded all of the footage I'd taken the day before, continued charging my batteries, called hotels and confirmed reservations, did all this other stuff. 11 comes and goes. 11:30 comes and goes. 11:45. I think I might have called them, or if not, they just kind of finally showed up. And they're like, hey, we're here with the car. And I was like, oh, sweet. And they're like, what do you want to put on the top? And I said, take this big blue duffel bag. They said, okay, well, let's add. So they take the big blue duffel bag, and they're like, can you keep these 2 backpacks with you? And I was like, maybe. And they're like, well, give us. So I gave them the blue duffel bag. They took that. They're like, we'll be back. We got to go pick up some more antenna, some more stuff to put on the top of the car, and then we'll be back to get you. I was like, how long? And they're like, not long, no more than an hour. I was like, okay, now that it's 45 minutes after the time you said you were going to pick me up, you're going to wait another hour. Okay, fine. Not really surprised. So 12 comes and goes, 12:30, 12:45, 1, I think about 1:15, an hour and a half, or an hour after they said they were going to pick me up, something like that. I was like, hey, where are you guys? They're like, oh, we're on our way. We're going to come get you right now. Okay, cool. Because the cleaning lady that runs the place came up to me. Oh my gosh. I'm in my hotel room with the door open and the curtain closed just to keep the breeze going. And she comes up and she pokes her head and she's like, hello. And I'm like, hi, what do you want? She's like, give me a drink. And I was like, what? She's like, buy me a drink. I was like, what do you mean? She used the word boisson, which is apparently what people up here in northern Madagascar do. They Malagasi's have like a normal word for drink, sava pisuch, but like they use the French word up here in the north. So she's like, give me a boisson. And I was like, you mean like a Coke? And she's like, yeah, give me a big Coke. I was like, no. She's like, yeah, give me a big Coke. And I was like, no, lady, why am I supposed to give you a big Coke? And she just kind of like got all like sheepish and like turned around, and then she's like, hey, when are you leaving? And I was like, whenever the bus is supposed to pick me up like in an hour. And she's like, oh, well, the room is done at noon. That's in like, so I guess this happened at like 11:45, 11:40. She was like, the room's done at 12. And I was like, okay. And she's like, but you can stay longer if you buy me a drink. I was like, oh, I see. So like, so if I buy you a big Coke, you'll ignore the fact that I'm staying past checkout time. She's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, well, we'll see when the bus comes and I'll decide then. She was like, okay, bye. She ran away. I was like, okay, lady. So she disappeared. 1 comes and goes, blah, 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 1:15, something like that. I called them. I'm like, where the freak are you guys? It is 1:15. You told me we were leaving at 11. That was 2 hours and 15 minutes ago. Like, oh, we're coming to get you, we promise. And I was like, okay, hurry. So my phone was like running out of battery because apparently my phone charger doesn't work either. So I said, so I turned off my phone, waited. I've done like, I uploaded all my CDs onto my computer, transferred them to my iPod, blah, 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 did all this other stuff. 2 o'clock comes and goes. I'm like, it is now 3 hours past the time that they said we were going to leave. So I call them again. I'm like, where are you? And they're like, we're coming to get you right now. I was like, Zodizo, like right freaking now? And they're like, yes. It's like, Tungava, Hangana. I was like, get over here now. I'm like, okay. So I hung up my phone, turned it off. Like 10 minutes, probably 10, maybe 15 minutes later, they show up, grab my stuff. I was like, sweet. Get in the car. And it's like half full of people. I'm like, okay. So we go back to the bus stop. And they're like, okay, time to get out. And I was like, what? They're like, yeah, we have to get out because like we have to put all these other people's stuff on. I was like, oh, okay. Because there's like 10 people waiting outside with all their antenna, all their luggage sitting on the ground. I was like, okay, so we're going to put on the stuff and we're going to go. No, that was 2 o'clock. We waited until 3 o'clock. Oh, and then, the bus disappeared at one point because they had to go get some stuff fixed. And I was like, where'd it go? And they were like, oh, we're going to get the tires fixed. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, well, are you done lying? Well, okay, when I first got in the bus, I was like, y'all are freaking liars and pamidikas, like deceivers. Like, y'all are liars and deceivers. And they're like, ha ha ha, you're so funny. You speak Malagasy. And I was like, no. I was like, you are freaking liars. You told me you'd be here 3 hours ago. And they're like, ah ha ha ha. I was like, ugh, I was so mad. I don't often get mad, as many of you know. Anyways, so we get out, we get to the bus stop, and they're like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, the guy who sold me the ticket, I was like, you're a freaking liar and a deceiver. You're a pandanga and a pamitika. And I said pivandi because I learned the new word, the Tinya Varcha, the northern Madagascar word for liar, pivandi. Like, you're a freaking pivandi. And he was like, oh no, I told you like it's Malagasy time, we're in Madagascar. I was like, yeah, Malagasy time is like maybe 1 hour late, not 3 hours late. He's like, ha ha ha, it's so funny. I was like, no, I was like, you're freaking lying and deceiving is what doesn't make your country go. And he was like, he just laughed and walked away. And I was like, ah. Anyway, so I sat there. 3 o'clock comes and goes, an hour later, and they're like, oh, we're taking the car to get fixed. And I was like, oh, good. We wouldn't want a broken tire or anything like that. No, that never happens. So then 4 o'clock comes and goes. I don't remember all the different things that happened, but basically, finally about 5 o'clock. So after I'd been sitting at the bus stop for 3 hours, after I'd already waited for 3 hours at my hotel, the car comes back and we start loading it up. That took about an hour, and finally about 6 o'clock p.m., a full 7 hours after they told me we were going to leave, we finally departed. What is interesting is that not a single thing that they told me was true, other than the fact that I got my front seat. They said we were leaving at 11, that was not true. They said that we were picking up 12 people at some other city, and so we were going to leave earlier, not true. We didn't leave earlier. We left late. False. Oh, and then, so they said we were going to leave at 11 and arrive in Fuimar. I don't even remember now because I've been told so many different times, different things. They said we were going to leave and get there at like, I don't even know. later when I found out we were leaving at 6, I said, what time are we going to get to Weimar now that I know that we're not actually leaving at 11 in the morning? He said, oh. And I said, now that you're like not lying anymore, tell me the real time. He's like, okay, we're going to leave at 6. You get to Weimar at 4 in the morning. Then we'll wait and unpack when it's light. I was like, okay, because you can't unpack when it's dark. Like, no, we couldn't because like people would lose their stuff. I was like, oh, right. So then he's like, yeah, we'll unpack, and then like at 8 o'clock we'll leave Weimar, and you'll get to Sambava at 12. I was like, wait. So when originally you told me, I think you told me we were going to get to Sambava like later Wednesday night, yesterday night. And it's like, so originally you told me we were going to get there last night, and now we're not going to get there until noon tomorrow. He's like, yeah, that's right. And I was like, are you like lying now, or are you telling the truth? He's like, no, that's true. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So that was yesterday. So then we started driving. I think I've already told you this in one of the other little installments. So we drove basically 30 kilometers from 6 to 9 p.m. before we started realizing, or I started realizing, I guess they'd already noticed, that their battery was dead and it wasn't powering their headlights. And so we couldn't really see very far, and we weren't getting very far. So we stopped at this place, everyone piled out, we went and got food. It was like hinumbi ube menaka that was really nasty and really red. I thought maybe I was just colorblind, but afterwards everyone was like, that meat was really red looking and gross. I was like, oh yeah. What's that? These are people from my bus. So I was like, they're like, yeah, the meat was really red. I was like, wait, you saw it was really red too? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, that meat was nasty. I was like, that's why I didn't eat any of my my rice. And they were like, oh yeah, I didn't either. So anyways, then we kind of sat around and they like started trying to fix it. So I like got really tired, and I like slept in a fetal position, sitting on some steps somewhere. And then I got up and moved around. I went back to the hotel. They're like, hey, come in here and talk to us. And I was like, okay. So I can talk to some of the people. There's a bunch of girls on this bus, and they're like talking to me. So I went and sat in there, and then I was really tired. So I was like, I like put my head down on the table, and they're like, hey, come sleep on this tsihi, which is like a grass woven raffia mat, a woven mat made of whatever that is. Wana. Manao video, manao maka kamera. Mitantarni diensik de refatungani ampiseuko amni namana. Mitantar momba ni chango umali arif. Yeah, so and they were asking, they're like, what are you doing? Who are you talking to? I was like, I'm making a video about our trip because it's such a disaster. So show my friends in America. So anyway, so then I started falling asleep on a tsihi next to like 4 dirty Malagasy kids, and like my legs were on the cement floor, which was covered in food, I'm sure. So then like, I think like an hour or two had gone, maybe an hour had gone by. And I woke up, it's like 10:30 now. So they're like, hey, we're closing down. I'm like, okay, fine. So I left with all the other people. We went back outside. I sat back down on the cement steps and like curled back in the fetal position. Oh, found my orange zip-up hoodie jacket thing because it was cold. Put that on, curled in the fetal position, and tried to like sleep on my knees, which I did for about an hour until 11:30 rolled around, and like one of the people woke me up and they're like, hey, we're gonna sleep in the bus. And I was like, what? Because I kind of heard like them talking, and they're like, yeah, we don't know how to fix the light or the engine battery thing, blah, 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 so we have to stop. So we can't go anymore. I was like, wait, so instead of driving through the night like we were supposed to, we are now going to sleep here in this place 30 kilometers, which is about 15 miles from our starting point. I'm like, yeah. I was like, okay. So I got in my car, or in the car, in my seat, which is actually a fairly decent seat, except that it's next to the engine, which is boiling freaking hot, which is fine when the engine's off, but when the engine is on during the day, as it has been all today, it's really hot. Anyways, so I kind of tossed and turned all night and kind of like slept on part of the seat or slept on part of the window, slept with my head on my shoulder like this, really comfortable. And we woke up at like light time, so like 5-ish. Finally got on the road maybe like 5:30, 5:45, and that was the start of today, which I think I've covered mostly, and whatever gaps I will fill in the next installment. This is already 14 minutes. Yep. This is where we are. Look how beautiful. Ooh. It actually looks kind of pretty. I'm sure it looks pretty once I put my glasses on. Yeah, it's decent. It's a nice sunset. Okay, I'll talk to you all later. Bye.